is up, guys? Welcome back to another GeekaWhat video. In this one, I'm going to be building an awesome $2,000 gaming PC build for 2023 and beyond, featuring Radeon RX 7900 XT. This is a build that is perfect for gaming at 4K and all the latest titles while achieving awesome frame rates and looking good in the process. I'll be walking you guys through all the parts that make this build possible, how to put it together step by step, and then performance a little bit later on. So let's dive right into it.
Smoke lingers after fire.
Begin by talking through the parts in this build. Specifically, let's look at the CPU and GPU pairing. This is a combo of parts that really is the most crucial to get right. Pick a bad CPU and you could end up bottlenecking your pricey graphics card and vice versa. The AMD Radeon 7900 XT has come down significantly in price. When it launched for $899, it didn't really make sense, but now you can get it for $750, $770. These things are flying off the shelves, so much so that they're on back order on many retailers, so you might have to shop around. I'll pop the links I use down in the description below. I personally love this AMD, it's not a reference, it's like their in-house Radeon design. 3 fans, pretty sleek form factor, integrated all black backplate with a couple of red accents. It's just very nice. 2 8-pin power connectors makes it pretty power efficient. All the next gen cards from AMD and Nvidia sip power relative to their predecessors, which is good to see. We've been impressed with this card when testing at 1440p and 4K, and it's clear that it really works well in all of the latest titles. If you're into older esports games, you're obviously going to have more than enough power. This thing is a bit of a unit. In terms of the processor, I have gone Intel. Now that might seem a weird decision, but it's because I wanted to tap into the power of the 13700K. Intel's 13th Gen i7 chip in particular is a real sweet spot for the 13th Gen architecture. Loads of cores, loads of threads, fast clock speeds. And if you get the KF version, that basically is the normal overclockable chip minus the integrated graphics, which we obviously don't need. You save a bit of money and it's still price competitive, where the 13600K isn't. AMD's Ryzen is just far better value. It also allows me to use my new motherboard that I've got in, the NZXT N7 Z790, which is of course the next part to look at in this build. Now, NZXT have been in the motherboard game for longer than most people think. Their first board, from memory, was a B550 design. They then followed up with Z690 and now of course Z790, and have done something a little bit different in the motherboard space, which I've really enjoyed watching. They carried over from the Z690 boards the option of releasing 2 designs, the M5 and N7. The N7 is this board here. It's got more of their shielding on. You've got this sort of magnetic stuff literally everywhere, which obviously conceals the M.2 slots. And if I can remove it, the magnet's obviously too strong for me today, hides things like the Wi-Fi antennas and black PCB, making it a really unique proposition for those of you looking to build a white gaming PC. These boards make a huge amount of sense if you want to go for a wider NZXT ecosystem. You've got built-in NZXT RGB headers, debug LED, power reset buttons, and then on the rear I/O, I got a bit lost on the board there, pretty good connectivity from Wi-Fi to 20 gig USB-C, USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type A and Type C connectivity, HDMI if you do go for a chip with graphics, pretty well positioned, and at under $300, it's also fairly price competitive. I am of course going to proceed by installing the processor into the motherboard. Of course, the board is also going to match really well with the color scheme and general aesthetic that I'm going for in this system. And while you don't want to spend too much money making a build look good, you want obviously great performance too. I think we all want a gaming PC that has good aesthetics at the end of the day. Pop the cover down, add the arm into place. It really is that simple. I'm going to add the RAM in next to the build, and I've got a 32GB kit of Corsair's Vengeance RGB DDR5. Now, this isn't the RGB Pro. I don't think they've released a Pro version yet, but you can get this with like lower cache latencies, quite fast speeds, and if you look at the pricing of DDR5 memory, it's not quite price parity with DDR4 yet, but it's not far off. This particular motherboard is DDR5, something I think is better for Z790. I just think for the, future-proofing and being able to reuse your RAM later in a different build in years to come, it makes sense to spend the extra $10 $10, get the next gen, and as software optimizations continue, that will prove to be quite handy. I think we're nearly there. M.2 drive is next. I have picked up the Samsung SSD 980 Pro, which I'll be installing under this top M.2 slot. Remove the cover, then take off the actual heat shield itself and pop the drive underneath. When all's said and done, you can add the cover back on. It just clips magnetically into place. The drive is hidden and gonna perform wow. The 980 Pro has great speeds in the region of 6 to 8 gigabytes a second for the read and write. In layman's terms, that's very quick. And it's so good value. Like, I think I paid $80 for a 1 terabyte drive. Amazing. 2 terabyte drive, 120, 130, super fast storage, and frankly, as much as you're gonna need for years to come. I don't like talking too much about future-proofing, but I'd guarantee this thing ain't gonna slow down anytime soon. The cooler is the next part to discuss, and I've actually gone not for an NZXT design, which you might think given the motherboard and the power supply and the case. Instead, the Corsair H100i iQ Elite Capellix XT. Now, the reason I've done this is I just haven't had amazing experiences with NZXT all-in-ones recently. Maybe I've just been on a bit of a bad luck run, but I think Corsair's iQ control for CPU and fan curves is just unrivaled. The ease of actually mounting a cooler like this it really couldn't be much easier. Let me show you exactly how to do it. You should have an included backplate, a little something like this. Now, on the backplate, you're going to install not only these thumb screws, but also these male-to-male posts just here. Let me take one off so I can show you exactly what I mean. Now, these are the posts that the actual cooler plate itself is going to install onto. So let me remove everything from the backplate and align the backplate with the 4 holes on the back of the motherboard. Next up, add the post back into the backplate. That's going to sandwich the motherboard, the backplate, and then eventually the cooler quite nicely with the CPU as the proverbial filling within the sandwich. Get all of those tightened up. I wouldn't recommend then installing the water block at this stage. It's a bit cumbersome having to move the motherboard and the radiator in one go. But to show you how it works, you can see that that's then just going to slot over the 4 posts. A thumb screw in each corner will actually stop it from doing this and keep it nice and tight. But out of principle, that's what's going to happen a little bit later. And then I'm going to grab the case and actually move the motherboard into place. Now, I really like this case from NZXT. It's got 2 fans at the front. They are the RGB variety. There's some quite high-end fans, actually. Around the rear, there is a little bit of ventilation on the side. Not a lot. That has been one of the criticisms of this case, quite legitimately from people in the past. However, there is mesh at the top, and I'm sure we'll have a B-roll shot we can throw in of this as well. There is a fan at the bottom, sort of at like a 45-degree angle, which is going to pull air in from under the case up to the GPU to help keep the graphics card cool. Of course, one of the most important parts that you want to make sure doesn't overheat. I'm going to remove the side panel by taking the thumb screw off and then pulling the panel. Lovely. And as ever, lay the case down flat for the motherboard installation. That way, we aren't risking the motherboard falling out and causing a crazy accident and obviously damaging things. It's then a case of checking where all the motherboard standoffs are. So in this chassis, 3 along the top, 3 down the middle, and 2 at the bottom. There is 1 missing just here. So I'm going to add that in before actually screwing the motherboard into place. Super easy to line the motherboard up. It just goes vertically, standing upright with the I/O ports poking through the back. Nice and easy, 9 screws to get that installed. You might have to remove some of the metal shrouding to reach the screw holes, but that's totally fine. Motherboard is in then, and I think I'm going to pop the radiator in next up. You need to remove the dust filter on the top, and you might think, James, why remove the dust filter? What about dust? Well, I'm going to put the radiator in the top in exhaust, blowing air out the case. So the dust filter is just more resistance that we don't need. In terms of doing this, the fans need to go on the underside of the radiator. Let me grab it just to demonstrate. The radiator is going to go in the case, and then the fan is going to go here. So you can see now how we're going to actually get the air out the system, out the build, and out the way. To do that, I'm going to pop the fans onto the radiator before putting the rad in the case, then add the water block in place, and finish screwing the radiator down through the top of the chassis. Nice and simple, and I'll deal with the cables and wiring, I think, a little bit later. Things are coming together very nicely indeed. I think next, I am going to put the GPU in. Now, I did try and find a white or even lighter themed RX 7900 XT, and I failed. Also, it's nice to have a white build with a few black accents. We've got some black bits on the fans, black bits on the motherboard, black bits on the cooler, so a black GPU shouldn't look entirely out of place. Or at least, I'm hoping that it shouldn't look entirely out of place. In terms of where it's going to go, the PCI lanes at the back have already been removed for me in advance, so that's nice and useful. Make sure the retention clip on the motherboard is already pushed back, and then slide the card into place. I forgot how not overly large this card was. Bit of pressure, and I think, yeah, that is in. I am going to pop in some white PSU extensions to kind of tie in the build color scheme and screw the GPU in to stop it from going anywhere. So far though, I'm loving how that looks, and of course you can see the fan for the GPU is going to provide lots of airflow. If you did want to add a rad, even in push-pull with fans on both sides and this card, it would be plausible. You haven't got to buy a humongous case to get good support for next-gen GPUs. Love it, love it, love it! Before popping in the PSU extensions I mentioned a moment ago, I am going to add in the power supply. NZXT C750 should do the business very nicely. It's fully modular, meaning you only plug in the motherboard, CPU, peripheral and GPU cables you actually need, keeping cable management nice and easy. And while the included cables are this black colour, which don't really match the build aesthetic, as I say, got these easy DIY fab extensions, which should solve that problem. I'll be plugging cables up to the CPU, motherboard, and of course the graphics card, 2 white 8-pin connectors there, and then the build is pretty much good to go. I'll be finishing all the other cables and wiring off camera, but if you'd like to see a guide on how to do all the cables and wiring a PC build, let me know in the comments below and we're going to make that video very soon. On that note, the build is good to go and ready to be powered up. We're going to see how this thing performs, of course, in a list of detailed performance benchmarks, but first, let's take a look at how good it looks. In traditional GeekaWhat style, it's time for an epic glam montage. When it comes to performance, you'll be pleased to hear this build definitely stacks up well. I tested it in a wide variety of all the latest titles to check out exact performance figures, starting off with Hogwarts Legacy at 4K. High settings in this title delivered 101 frames per second on average, with consistent 90 and 99th percentile results. Some really impressive numbers, especially when you of course consider this was tested at 4K. In Star Wars Jedi Survivor, I did tune the resolution down to 1440p and put the settings on Epic. Here the build pulled in 96 FPS, so not too far off the 100 frame per second average seen in the last title, with consistent 90 and 99th percentile results for good measure. Move through into Warzone 2 at 4K, high settings again, and the build once again achieved nearly 100 FPS, very consistent in a wide variety of these titles. 98 FPS on average, with 90 and 99th percentile results in the region of 85 and 77. To spice things up a little bit, and because you guys always ask, Fortnite at 1080p competitive is next up, 298 FPS on average, with 90 and 99th percentile results that never deviated below 250. I also of course tested Apex Legends, tuning the resolution back up to 4K here, and at high settings the build achieved a strong 173 FPS on average. 90 and 99th percentiles look good too, and of course if you wanted even more high competitive frame rate, you'll be able to drop that resolution down and surge well above that 200 FPS mark on average. This is a build that really performs well in a wide variety of the latest titles, and you can check out all the parts that make it possible at the links down in the description below. Thanks for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.